Welcome to The Explainer. So glad you're joining us today because we're taking on a massive, absolutely fascinating topic. We're going to look at exactly how you go about governing the rural populations of one of the largest, most vibrant countries on Earth. It's like a giant puzzle, really. We're going to break down this administrative pyramid and unpack the mechanics of India's rural local self-government. Let's get into it.
1.21 billion people. That was the population of India back in the 2011 census. Just let the sheer scale of that number sink in for a second. It's staggering. A huge portion of that population lives out in remote villages. So how do you even begin to manage that? I mean, it's just physically and logistically impossible for a single prime minister sitting all the way in New Delhi to handle every local issue. The central government simply can't manage a dry well in a distant village or, a pothole in a rural district. So the solution? A pretty brilliant multi-layered system of governance.
Here's our roadmap for The Explainer today. 1. Governing a billion people. 2. The Panchayati Raj system. 3. We'll zoom into the village level with the Gram Panchayat. 4. Justice and daily functions. 5. Scaling up to blocks and districts. And 6. Building grassroots democracy.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, governing a billion people.
Before we get into the actual structures, I absolutely love this quote from former U.S. President John F. Kennedy's inaugural speech, which our source text uses to set the stage. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for the country. It's famous, sure, but it perfectly hits the nail on the head when it comes to local self-government. It's not about just sitting around waiting for some distant authority to fix everything. It's about active participation and taking ownership of your own community.
So to make this massive administration work, the Indian government operates at 3 distinct levels. Think of it like a pyramid. At the very top, you've got the central or union government in New Delhi. They're handling the big national stuff: defense, foreign exchange, railways. A step down, you have the state governments in the state capitals. They manage things within their borders, like law and order, local transport, health services. But at the very bottom, forming the actual foundation of this entire pyramid, is local self-government. This is grassroots level. They deal strictly with local problems and the everyday needs of the people. How do you govern your own backyard, right? Today we are zooming in specifically on the rural side of this local governance.
Which brings us nicely to Section 2, the Panchayati Raj system.
So the term panchayat literally translates to a group of 5 people. And this isn't some modern bureaucratic invention, not at all. It's a deeply historical concept. Since ancient times in India, it was just custom for villagers to elect a group of 5 respected elders. These 5 folks would deal with local problems, solve disputes, and their decisions were actually binding upon everyone. It was local self-reliance in its absolute purest form.
The timeline of how this evolved is wild. We know villages were administrative units in ancient India because they're literally written about in foundational texts like the Arthashastra, the Manusmriti, and the Mahabharata. The system functioned pretty well for centuries, all the way through the Mughal period. But then, under British rule, it really took a hit. British officers were sent in to look after rural problems, and, they often just couldn't understand the local customs. But post-independence, largely driven by Mahatma Gandhi's vision for empowering villages, the democratic government brought it back. Specifically, in 1992, the 73rd Constitutional Amendment formally revived the modern, 3-tier Panchayati Raj system we see today.
Now the key takeaway here is that this modern setup has 3 tiers. It starts right at the foundational village level with panchayats. Then it scales up to the block level with block committees, and finally it caps off at the district level with Zila Parishads. We're going to see exactly how this builds from the ground up, starting with the village.
Section 3, village level, looking at the Gram Panchayat.
Okay, let's make this concrete. Let's step into a real-world scenario from our source material. Imagine a farmer, let's call him Ravi, living in a small village in Rajasthan. Ravi is looking at an immediate, life-altering crisis. The local well, the only water source for his farm and his neighbors, is drying up. It's an existential threat. Now, obviously, he can't just pick up the phone and dial the Prime Minister. So what does he actually do?
Well, Ravi takes this problem straight to the Gram Sabha. That's the village assembly. Any village with a population over 500 has one, and literally every single adult member of the village is part of it. It's just direct democracy in action. They meet at least twice a year to hash out important matters and local problems. And it's this exact assembly that actually elects the senior members who will go on to form the Gram Panchayat.
So, back to Ravi's water crisis. He brings it up at the Gram Sabha meeting. Everyone listens. The head of the Gram Panchayat, who is known as the Sarpanch, hears the problem and calls a special meeting immediately.
Because it's local governance, there's no red tape. They act fast. They decide right there to tap into rural development funds to dig a deeper well. And, pretty brilliantly, they also initiate rainwater harvesting to get that groundwater replenished. Within a few months, problem solved. It's fast, hyper-local problem solving at its best.
Now, a really vital feature here is representation. The Gram Panchayat is designed to be incredibly inclusive. Seats are constitutionally reserved for people from scheduled castes and scheduled tribes to ensure those marginalized voices are at the table. On top of that, a full 1/3 of the seats are explicitly reserved for women. Our source actually points out that with changing times, we're now looking at about 1 million elected women leaders, like women sarpanchs, actively running local self-government across India today. It's a massive engine for social inclusion.
Moving right along to Section 4, Justice and Daily Functions.
These panchayats aren't just fixing wells, they have a massive list of compulsory functions they're legally required to handle. We're talking public works, like building and repairing roads, bridges, and drains. We're talking health facilities, setting up dispensaries and running vaccination programs, plus sanitation, garbage removal, clean drinking water, burial grounds, primary education, and even keeping birth and death records while helping farmers improve their livestock. It is a wildly comprehensive list of basic human services, all managed locally.
And alongside all that admin work, there is a judicial side to this too. Some villages have what's called a Nyaya Panchayat. The members are usually elected by the Gram Panchayat, and their whole job is to provide a cheap, super fast way to resolve petty civil and criminal disputes. Rival groups can basically just state their case directly to the Panchayat and hash it out. Now, they can impose small fines, but, and this is a big but, they absolutely cannot send people to jail. And hey, if you don't like the local decision, you always retain the right to appeal up to the district or high courts.
Section 5. Scaling up to blocks and districts.
Obviously, a village panchayat can't do everything. Sometimes a problem is just too big, like, say, building a major hospital or a high school. You need to pull resources. That's when you group about 100 villages together to form a block samiti. It's made up of the sarpanches from all those villages, plus local MPs and members of the Legislative Assembly. Their main gig is preparing community development programs for that entire block, like large-scale irrigation. Then, stepping up to the top of our local pyramid, you have the Zila Parshad at the district level. This group includes heavy hitters like the district collector and judges, and their main job is to supervise how all those block samitis and panchayats below them are functioning.
Finally, Section 6. Building grassroots democracy.
Look, the Gram Panchayat is literally the beating heart of rural administration. It handles day-to-day problems so efficiently, mostly because the people making the decisions actually have to live with the results of those decisions. But on a deeper level, it's a training ground. It trains young people to become leaders. It makes villagers more self-sufficient, showing them firsthand that cooperation is the best way to get things done. It forms the absolute bedrock of the entire Panchayati Raj system.
So, I want to leave you with this final thought pulled straight from our source materials critical thinking section. Do you believe that it is our fundamental duty to contribute to the welfare of our country? Why? The whole premise of the Panchayati Raj system is a resounding yes, and it argues that the absolute best place to start contributing is right in your own backyard. Take a second to think about what that means for your own local community. Thanks so much for diving into this rural administrative pyramid with me today. It's been great having you. Until next time, keep learning.